I know we have 15 supplements, right? But for this session today, I would just like you to say to us which one so far is your favorite. Just to have this intro, just type for me out of the 15. And what I've realized that over the time, your favorite kind of changes, right? I know you might have 3, 4, 5 of your favorites. Please pick one as hard as it is, as much as, as hard as it could be. And just type for us your favorite supplement. Let's see. I just want to check that. Just to allow others as well to find the chat room so that you know. Lungile, GTS. Yes, my brother. I get it. I'm sure it has changed from the beginning. So GTS, Janine, Aralex. Yeah, I know. It's my personal favorite, Aralex. Yeah, because of personal reasons. So, yeah, my son has changed his life because of Aralex. I'm waiting for you, leaders. Please find the chat box. It's very important you know where it is and for you to type. So just to see who's us. And I also want to see if you can hear me. So please just type your favorite. Mina, you are cheating. I said one, so I don't know which one to choose. I don't know which one to choose. Think about it. Is it PWR or is it B2Y? Oh, it's B2Y. Awesome. I got that. All right. Okay, we'll wait for others just to see if they can hear me and find the chat. Okay, Nzamai, STP. I guess it has done wonders for you. STP, indeed. It did something amazing for my son. It stopped nosebleed, which I was shocked. Eliza, power, apricot, I believe when you say power woman. Utapeng, beauty again. Okay, beauty is beating them now. I'm seeing beauty here again. All right. Let's see who else. Just type your favorite out of the 15. Not 2, not 3, just 1. HPR, Mom can see for sure. Okay, I got it. ALT, long-time favorite, Sonia, right? Long-term favorite, I know that. When we want a testimony of ALT, we go to Sonia because it has really helped her family. Okay, let's see who else here has responded. 2 more, let's see. Let's go, Lira, so we can start speaking. I really want you to find the chat because I want to see if you can hear me. I also want you to know where the chat box is because we'll be asking you to type and also speak. What's your favorite supplement? What's your favorite anion drop? DNA anion drop. Just 2 more to go. Let's see. And then we will continue. Waiting, leaders. Okay, let's see who's that. Hey, Albert. Woo-hoo-hoo. Ghana in the house. Hey, Albert says a multi-spectrum. It does wonders, doesn't it? Yeah, sometimes if you don't know what to give someone, just give them MLS, eh? It will just do the trick. It will do the trick. Quiti on GRW. Amazing. Amazing indeed. Hey, Sarah. Beauty. Beauty is topping it today. I think we're going to need to talk about beauty today. Thank you so much for responding. You are so welcome this evening. It's usually a different type of session that we have on the first Wednesday of the month. We always would love to invite Mary Esther. So she's here today. And I just want to say to you, I know every time we ask you to introduce yourself, and I am not going to do that because I would like to encourage everyone to go back to all the videos to hear who you truly are, your history, how you got to really look at all these botanicals and how much you were impressed about the science behind it. Tonight, I am not going to ask you, oh, by the way, with us is Night. I know it's in the morning for you. Hey, Mary, is it
It's
morning?
okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing for me tonight, I just want to say you've had so many interviews all over the world asking you about these supplements, asking you about these botanicals, asking you and trying to understand the science behind it. But what I would love for you to share with us is the most bizarre questions you've had, or things that we never ask that you think are very important for us to know. Because sometimes I realize we ask the same thing over and over again. We might overlook certain information that you really feel that, you know what, I think if you all understood this, you will get it. So really, your weird experiences, your good ones, the ones we haven't even touched on, I would like us tonight to just start there. So allow you to really go on and say, ever since I've been doing this with the supplements and having these interviews, this is really what I would love to share with you that most people don't ask about, but it's important for you to understand. So yeah, let's just start there for tonight, Mary.
Wow, that sounds really fun. Yeah, I would love to do that. I would absolutely love it. So that means I probably might have to share screen if you don't mind me showing people things. Okay.
That would
So,
be great.
and before we start, I'm required to make the statement that I did in the previous video. I have to do it in every video now. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read this really quickly for us before we get started. It's the disclaimer, the legal disclaimer. Julia, you're muted. There you go.
Yes, sorry. You're welcome to do so,
Julia,
Mary. I remember in the last session, you did mention that you always need to do that. And we also need to make sure we do this disclaimer to cover ourselves and APLGO. So thank you for that. You may go ahead.
Okay, good, Julia. Yeah, I thought, where did she go? Okay, so here we go. The statements made in this video have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration. The products discussed in this video are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Statements made in this video are the result of knowledge accumulated over many years on common factual data presented in college-level textbooks about human nutritional physiology. Statements made in this video are also the result of the gathering of legitimate scientific research and evidence-based information taken from years of peer-reviewed studies conducted at the university level around the world. Such research on the beneficial properties of functional foods and many other useful botanicals are found in thousands of peer-reviewed scientific journals in databases at the National Institutes of Health, PubMed, and private colleges such as the Linus Pauling Institute and many others throughout the world.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, we've got that out of the way now. So yeah, if I may share screen, that would be great.
Okay, let's see.
I see the green. I see the button here.
Let's see if we can make you.
I see a share screen button here that I usually press.
Done?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and press that.
Awesome.
Okay, so here we go. All right. Okay, so you should be able to see the background of my computer and also the document that I pulled up here that's actually in the original APL book. So, you know, these are all the formulations. So if anybody ever has a question as to what ingredients are in each formulation, it's listed right here. And of course, it's also on the website. But the other book the original book that I'd written, you know, it was all about the formulation. So this was just listing all of the colorants and the the sweeteners and the kosher non-synthetic flavorants and the natural non-synthetic preservatives. So if anybody wants a chart of this, I can email this to you. It's not in the newer book since I had to remove everything referencing the formulations. So I just wanted to share that with you. But also, gee, this is going to be really fun. So I'm going to go through the book and just pick out, some things that I think that we need to talk about. And this is really on the fly, totally unprepared, but I love it because once I get going, I can't be quiet. But just feel free to intervene and ask whatever questions you may have. And that way it'll make it a lot more interesting and more fun and more interactive for us. How's that sound? Julia.
No, that
you're getting cut off severely. I cannot make out the word.
Definitely do so. Leaders, if you have, can you hear me?
Now I can. Yeah, it was really like in a bucket.
Hear me better now? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, we're having challenges this side in terms of network. But yes, I was saying yes, most definitely we're gonna really ask questions as you speak. Leaders, you're also welcome as she is narrating everything she needs to share with us. Just put up your hand up and we will ask the questions as she's speaking. So don't wait until the end because you might forget your question. So as she's talking, we'll definitely give you an opportunity to ask for clarity. Thank you, Mary. You may continue.
Sure. So this is the old ebook version of the original book. And I'm showing this to you because it's so well, divided into all the different aspects of the products. So what I'd like to share, though, talk a little bit about the product additives. Everyone has questions about the additives. And then I can go in and tell you about how the body utilizes the essential vitamins and minerals in our very healthy whole food diets, especially the organic foods, because they're higher in the phytochemical compounds that are so beneficial to our health, and also the minerals that are in the soil. So the plants take up the soils, and then when we eat the plants, we're taking in a high amounts, very potent amounts of essential minerals that our bodies use for just about every single bodily process. Same thing for the vitamins that are formed through the sun, that biochemical reaction that forms vitamins. So it all has to come together to have a healthy diet, but also a healthy product, So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and jump here to the additives, and they're called additives, and that's kind of a all-encompassing kind of terminology, but it has negative connotations because additives, people have gotten used to the idea, oh, additives are bad, right? But additives can be good and bad. It can be something that's completely nourishing and contributing to the product, or something that is synthetic and not good, like so many other products out on the market are. So anyway, I just wanted to reassure everyone that these are food grade, dyes and colorants that are natural pigments from the skins of these different foods. For instance, the curcumin, it's taken from the turmeric plant, which is yellow, and so many other countries use this dye to dye their clothing, or use it as paints, and these are all non-toxic, right? But so this is what this component in the turmeric that it's called curcumin is very, very beneficial. A lot of research studies have shown that curcumin is very potent in so many ways, so if anyone ever needs any scientific references, I can email you, to your heart's content, as much science as you want. This book is very, very, very scientifically backed by so much science. So just rest assured that everything I'm telling you here, I've researched completely and thoroughly, and I would never have put it into a book, this one or the revised version, if it wasn't backed solidly. So we want to protect the company, and we only want to also not make any claims about the products, right? We know that by now. But anyone who has any kind of testimonials, we have to use certain terms, certain words in the United States. I don't know what it's like in the other countries, but being from here, I have to protect, my integrity and my reputation, and also the company here in the U.S. So if this correlates with what you have to do in other countries, then by all means, that you might get a lot of benefit out of what I'm about to say. So, so what I wanted to also point out was that we can say, when you're saying that, when you started taking the drops, your health improved in some specific way, right? You noticed a complete difference or a complete improvement. What we can say is, you have to quote this now. I noticed a correlation. Now, these are scientific terms and should satisfy legally anything we might say. I noticed a correlation between eating the drops. Sometimes people say I am taking the drops, and that kind of has a medical connotation, taking something. So, or putting them in my mouth and having them dissolve, be really specific like that. So I noticed a correlation between eating the drops and certain health improvements. Now, unfortunately, in a video, that would not be, that would be something that might be actionable against the company if we say, I noticed certain health improvements. But if you're vague like that, that should be better than if you said it improved, my condition, and you state the specific condition. So I've had a couple of meetings with corporate, and we've hashed these kinds of things out. They're so wonderful about it, and they are frustrated as much as I am, and as much as I'm sure some of you are, as to what we can and cannot say. So anyway, that's just a little tidbit that you might want to take into consideration, rather than saying, this definitely healed this specific condition, right? So are there any questions about that before I go on?
Hi, Mary. Are you able
Yes.
to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question with this is really quite a challenge, because now I'm thinking, I've just helped someone with just one drop, and they then want to give a testimony. So are you saying we should then guide them in terms of what to say? Sometimes we feel like it doesn't sound authentic. It seems like all the videos will sound the same. If you say it gave, I'm now feeling a bit of improvement of my health. If everyone says the same thing, it's as if it's rehearsed. Unlike when somebody says, yeah, I had a challenge like this, and this is how it improved this specific illness. So you are not saying that they are saying it. It's not you, the distributor, actually saying it. So yeah, I think that's where we might actually have a challenge in terms of, then now we need to dictate to them in a way what to say. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, isn't it the most frustrating thing? I've had to deal with this, Julia, for 45 years now. And I've had to skirt the issues whenever I'm recording something, or whenever I'm sitting down with a client. I have them sign waivers. I mean, it gets really, really annoying, but we want to protect the company, and we want to make sure that we will always have these wonderful products in our lives. So yes, we do have to practice certain phrases and know what we can and cannot say. So I can teach you that, I can definitely go over things like this. And also, I think corporate needs to get involved to get this information from the lawyers, because one set of lawyer might be giving advice, and later on another set of lawyers might be giving a different kind of advice. And that's what I've experienced. Before, the first set of lawyers accepted my book. Oh, great, it's scientifically backed. Yeah, by all means, it'll educate the associates, and it will educate the customers and all of that. It was wonderful. But then another set of lawyers came along years later and said, no, she's making references to the products, and that can't be done. And so I kind of argued the point. I said, well, this is all scientifically backed. I'm not making claims about the products, because the products themselves have not undergone any scientific regimen as far as testing the products themselves. But there is, literally thousands and historical, decades of scientific research on every single botanical that are in the drops, so there's that very fine edge, that very fine distinction, that if the FDA here in the United States, and maybe other government agencies in other countries like yours, might get kind of picky about it and be just a thorn in our sides kind of thing. So we really do have to be careful so that we're protecting the company, basically, to not be shut down. I've seen companies get shut down overnight, you know, and it's really sad because they were wonderful products. And so this is what we have to keep in mind all the time. So as long as you don't name a body part, from what I understand, the FDA compliancy laws state you cannot list a body part. So if you're saying your health has improved, you can talk about the cells in that system. You know, gee, you know, the cells in my liver are functioning normally now. And, you know, doctor examinations or the laboratory tests show an improvement in my liver. Now that is a correlation between me taking the product and, you know, what my laboratory studies, research results have shown. So, you know, just being very specific and being very careful not to say this healed my liver kind of thing. That's too direct, and that's something that they like to clamp down on. They call that making medical claims about the products. I know the company is looking into having some legitimate scientific studies done on these individual formulations. And once the researchers come to their conclusions and report what they have found, this is through, you know, rigorous testing of either, well, probably human subjects in this case. And so they will apply them, you know, in the study and measure the results of their subjects, their human subjects. And once they determine the outcome, that's one study that would appear credible. So that kind of study needs to be repeated several times from different groups of scientists. And that way they will come to the conclusion of, you know, yes, that correlates with what the other researchers did in that other study. And sometimes studies are conducted slightly differently. You know, they might have, oh gosh, there's just so many ways to test, you know, the outcome of something. Like they'll say, okay, well, we dissolved this drop in water and we heated it to a certain temperature and it was still viable. And so we have the subjects take it. And there was two groups, one taking the fresh enzyme active viable one versus the one that was heated in boiling water like a tea. So they will measure the results of both, and then they'll, you know, report the outcome. That's just one small example of the many ways to test, you know, something out. So, but altogether, that data gets put together by panels of very highly qualified peers, you know, in the industry, or not the industry, in the scientific community throughout the world. And so they will come to the conclusion and say, yeah, okay, so it appears that these studies with the same outcomes shows that this particular drop does improve that particular organ or that particular system. You know, so there's so many variations in all these different scientific studies. So the more studies that are done on a particular product, then the more credible it appears and the more certain we are that that indeed does, you know, affect in a positive way that particular organ. So I use the liver as an example. I hope you know that. I'm sure you know that. But so yeah, that's just, I hope that answers your question. I know I'm long-winded, but I have to throw in the details.
No, we appreciate the long-winded because we want this session to really be different from all the other sessions that we have. Other sessions we have are just on the surface. You are going deeper. So we truly appreciate that. So I just, Leader Lesedi, I saw your hand. I just want to do a follow-up first before I go to you. So let me be practical, Mary. If I am a client and I've been taking NRM and now I'm no longer inject myself with insulin because my doctor said, now your glucose levels are fine, there's no need for you to inject yourself. If I do a testimony and say, I used to inject insulin twice a day, I don't do so anymore, and what helped me is NRM. Not that I am healed, not that, so we're not claiming healing. Is that okay? Just to say, it was like this, I used this product, and I am so much better. Now I don't inject myself anymore. What is not correct in that way of saying it?
Okay, so these government agencies would say, it appears that you're saying that this particular product healed your condition. Well, this is how we can get around it. Tell the story. Then you can say, okay, I had diabetes and I was using insulin, and someone introduced me to this product and I started taking it. I went back to my doctor and had them evaluate me. That's very important to have the medical person verify something, you know, otherwise it would be really hard to prove that you're not making claims about a product, right? So if your doctor said that you don't need insulin anymore, then that doctor should submit a report, a white paper, and you might encourage that person to do that, because otherwise it's the patient, you know, only the patient saying this. And unfortunately, in the medical world, you know, that doesn't, they don't record that as being something credible. It's empirical data, empirical meaning, you know, just evidence. And so when 1,000 people say the same thing, then that's something that warrants something a little serious, you know, investigation. But I think doctors need to report this. You know, I don't think a lot of them do. So I know we do have white papers on the website that have doctor reports, but they're not scientists. They haven't undergone a rigorous scientific research study. And those are specific guidelines that scientists need to follow in order to produce evidence or to conclude something, right? So, yeah, so what you can say is, yeah, so my doctor said I don't need insulin anymore. And this is the correlation that I have experienced. That word correlation is extremely important. So, you know, what you experienced was you had diabetes, you used the Norm product, and then you went back to your doctor and he said, whatever you're doing, you know, your blood tests are fine. So I'm taking you off the insulin, or maybe the doctor might, you know, gradually wean you off. I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't know how they do that. So, and then you can go out and say, and tell the story of what happened, and do say the word correlation. You know, there was a correlation between me having this condition, me taking the drop, and the doctor saying I don't need insulin. So there's a correlation there that I cannot prove, but I still think it's noteworthy, that kind of language.
Okay. All right. No,
Yeah, I hope you all wrote this down.
No, I think it's just choosing different English words. English, it's our sixth language here. So it means we need to learn other words that actually are saying the same thing, but don't have, you know, the legal implications. So, Lesedi,
Yeah.
you're welcome to ask. You can unmute and ask.
Thanks,
comment.
Julia. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hello there. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Lesedi. I love that name.
Lesedi, yeah.
Love all your names.
Sorry, yeah, I was actually just going to comment on that, and just a question. Is that also referring to symptoms? Because it's also, I'm just trying to understand it a bit better as far as, you know, I'm thinking of someone like what Julia was saying has put in a testimony, and does that include, let's say someone's been in an accident and they're experiencing back pain and they use our STP and SLD and that helps them? You know, we're not obviously speaking about, I don't know, yeah, just, I mean, those are practical symptoms that, and I think you might have answered it in your last statement, but I'm just saying, does that include even the symptoms of a cause if we're not even speaking to a specific, was that a way of getting around it? That's what maybe I'm asking, as to how we can also look at getting around it as far as our testimonials are concerned. If we speak to symptoms more so than the actual cause, I'm not sure.
Yes, that's a great question. Absolutely. Always use the word correlation between what you had before and after taking the product, and then what your doctor has said, or how differently you feel. But you can always, you know, something that never directly implies that the product did this for you. Just say, this is how I felt after I started taking it, and just make clear that you're not making medical claims. You know, that's just the language we need to stay with, no matter who we're talking to, just to make sure that we don't cause a lot of stress in the corporate departments, because they are very stressed, and our meetings have been very reassuring with each other. We're working together to make sure that we use the right language, which I'm very familiar with anyway. You know, I'm kind of helping this along and reinforcing the fact that we won't get shut down as a company, and we can still continue indefinitely, you know, share these products. So, I mean, basically cellular nourishment, when we're talking about nourishing the body, and it's nourishing us always at the cell level, the micro environment that composes the entire body, all body systems. When we nourish the body, it just starts functioning properly. That's what the body needs. We are made of all of these micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the fatty acids, the sugars, the proteins, amino acids. All of these are basic components when our bodies break down in digestion. And so, these nutrients enter through the cell membranes that are very distinguishing, by the way. They don't allow anything in the cell unless it determines it to be of self, quote unquote. And this is what the scientists term. If the body determines that something does not belong in the body, it will start trying to reject it. And this whole cascade of rejection, inflammatory responses, elimination, detoxification, all these things start happening in the body. And sometimes that's half the problem. When someone switches to a whole foods diet and takes in potent amounts of vitamins and minerals that the body is desperately searching for to make all the repairs and restore what's called homeostasis in the system. I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, this is how you reduce inflammation. And when you have something nourishing your body, whether it's the APL products or whole foods, which of course, one supplement, no matter how good it is, can't do all of that for you. You have to just literally infuse your body constantly, every day with all of these essential nutrients, so that your body has all the raw materials to work with to restore itself. And it knows how to do that. It's in our genetic code of instructions in the DNA. So it's in our very genes. That's just how the body works. It's really amazing that way. But yeah, I mean, if you have pain and you took something for it, you can say, hey, I feel better now, as a result. And that could be, people say that about taking drugs, aspirins. I don't know about the other prescription medications, but I know people have said that about taking aspirin, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. Thanks, Mary. And just on another one, it might take you off a bit, but I just wanted to check, as far as the supplements, if you are taking them, like I take them, as per the guide, there's a guide that shows you how to take them on a 24-hour cycle. Is there advice maybe as to give the supplements a break, or are these supplements quite okay to be used over long periods of time as far as effectiveness is concerned?
The only way I would agree with that, for anyone to want to do that, is if they're specifically taking a whole food that contains an abundant amount of phytosterols, and these are different biochemical compounds that are found in roots. Not all roots, not like potatoes or sweet potatoes or anything like that, but some of the more potent roots from around the world, some of them are in our formulations, like the maca root and the ashwagandha root. Those are very high in plant sterols. And so they are the precursors for how the body makes 10,000 or more hormones every single day. And these are regulating hormones. They start and stop processes. They work with the nervous system and the immune system. So the hormones are really helping to police the biological terrain and to make sure everything's functioning. So if someone eats too much of the maca root, the whole root, I'm not talking about a supplement, because those are much smaller amounts. The whole root, if you're taking that every day, then they'll notice a lot of changes, like enlarged breasts in women, just different things that people notice. And then they feel like, I really need to back off on this for a while. And that's the only thing I've ever seen that anyone would want to back off on something that is very, very nutritious and nutrient dense that the body desperately needs every day. I'm pretty sure it's not ever going to happen with our formulations, because they're just not the whole thing, the whole plant. So that's much larger and much bigger to be ingesting all the time, in a whole slew of all the different nutrients that work in synergy together. We're getting the DNA of these plants, the information that helps our DNA repair itself. That's just the great thing about the drops, the products. So yeah, I hope I answered the question.
You did. Thanks, Mary. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right,
Anyone else?
lovely. Let's check. Okay, I don't see any hand, Mary. You're welcome to go to the next thing that you wanted to share with us. Yeah, let's do that.
Alrighty, let me plug in my computer so we don't get cut off. Okay, so I mean, I can go through each one of these if you'd like, but also I wanted to cover a lot of people have a question about the sucrose, and I wanted to just reassure everyone that there are so many phytochemical compounds in the formulations from these botanicals that help regulate blood sugar. So the 1.7 grams of sucrose in the drops are not going to affect us, especially if you have a diet that's very balanced. You know, the animal-derived protein foods that help regulate your blood sugar, and the whole food carbohydrates that provide the sustained energy, because our muscles and our brain functions on the glucose that we digest from our carbohydrates. So our food is broken down all the way to glucose, and then that's when it enters the bloodstream and enters the brain. So we have to fuel our brain and our muscles all the time. And of course, some of it is always in the bloodstream too. But of course, if you consume too many of the refined sugars, you're going to have a big dump in the blood stream, and it's going to have a saturated amount of sugar, and that's going to overtax the pancreas. So the pancreas is what secretes the insulin, the hormone that takes the sugar out of the bloodstream. You know, so yeah, I mean, that's just that whole process. So we have to make sure that we're balancing our diet, a healthy diet, and plenty of raw fruits and vegetables, in addition to these wonderful formulations, just to get the fiber and the chemically pure water and the vitamins and minerals that are also in the foods. Organic foods is what I always advocate, because you want to stay away from the pesticides that many studies have been coming out in the last 20 years, showing the correlation between nervous system and brain and hormonal, reproductive, all these different systems have been adversely affected and always associated with the spraying of the pesticides and landing on our food. And also the genetically modified organisms, where in bioengineering, they insert different components from either other animals or pesticides in the very DNA of the plants that they are claiming that patents for. Once you take a food and you alter its DNA, in the United States, that is, then the genetically modified organism is now a property of, the entity that created that kind of food. So the GMOs have also been associated with many kinds of health ailments as well. So that's why in the book here, I show organic, non-GMO cane sugar. This section, by the way, is still in the new version of the book. So it doesn't mention anything about the drops at all. It's just a science explaining what the industry puts in our food or in candy, other candies, that aren't nutritious. But so, yeah, don't worry about the sugars in here. Molasses is always one of the safest sugar, because it is high in minerals. So that helps regulate the blood sugar, full of vitamins and minerals. And then also the cane sugar. Let's jump down to the cane sugar, also known as sucrose, which is the white granulated sugar. So I mean, the candy industry has to use this kind of sugar. It's the only one that will solidify and crystallize, and that's a great way to protect the nutrients inside of the formulations. So anyway, this is in the new book. All this explanation. I'm going slowly here so you can all freeze this and read this for yourselves. And there's always references at the end of every section that I have done in the book. But and then we can go on to the natural preservatives. Citric acid is something that our cells manufacture in order to produce energy. It's part of the energy production cycle called the ATP, or adenosine triphosphate cycle. So anytime you exercise and you sustain your heart rate and you breathe rhythmically for at least 15 to 30 minutes at a time, it kicks into the fat burning stage, which is the ATP cycle. If you're exercising and you're doing short bursts of work, muscular effort, then you're using the blood glucose or the glycogen stores in the muscle. Glycogen is like a complex carbohydrate, a starch compared to the simple sugar of glucose. So our bodies convert glucose to glycogen and store that, or if you need more, blood sugar, then it will convert the glycogen stores back to glucose. So our bodies are chemical factories, always manipulating and always changing and rearranging and repurposing all these different molecules. But none of this would happen if we didn't nourish ourselves properly. Any questions so far?
Okay, from my side, I do not have a question, but let me see if there's a hand. Just let me check if anyone has their hand up. Yes, Bafo, you're welcome.
Hello. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's okay. Yeah, my name is Lulu.
Hello.
Yeah, well, you can call me Bafo, Mary. Bafo.
Oh, hello, Buffalo. I hope I said that right.
You said it very right. So there's a question I got from someone that I was speaking to earlier this week. So they're saying that they're struggling to walk. They've been diagnosed with, let me try read it properly. I think it's myelitis disease. And I'm not really sure. I did look it up just to see, what happens. But I thought maybe, I should ask this question for them here, if there's anything that could assist them with that disease as far as nutrition is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look it up. Myelitis, you said?
Yes, myelitis disease.
Yes, okay. So, when you look at it at the micro level, it's the myelin sheath that covers the cell. But when you look at it at a macro level, these are what these charts are showing. And so let's go to the other one. I think that was a better one. Yes, so the myelin sheath is the coating that covers the nerve cells all along the spinal cord. And so inflammation of the spinal cord indicates some kind of injury, whether it's microscopic or a physical injury. Okay, so when you're not properly nourished, then there's nothing to reduce the inflammation of those micro cells. And so they don't have all of the raw materials to repair themselves. So this inflammatory response, which throws the pain indication to you at the person, if there's something wrong in the body, you'll receive it in the form of pain. And that's just the nervous system letting you know there's something terribly wrong, right? Or minor, it could be minor, it could be something more major like this one. So, yeah, it can occur anywhere in the body, but in this case, it's probably very, very painful. So I always tell people just eat the anti-inflammatory foods. The raw enzyme active, uncooked plant kingdom is full of the enzymes that will help reduce inflammation. The phytochemical compounds will also help nourish, help the nutrients to restore the cell to proper functioning kind of thing. So this is completely different than, of course, what your doctor might approach at a different way and prescribe pain medications. Since I'm not a doctor, and I don't study drugs, you'd have to ask the doctor, what exactly does this do for me? And how is it going to help the healing process? So these are difficult questions. Some doctors might cooperate and want to know more about the nutritional aspects. When my clients go back to their doctors, I have them bring their protocol that I compile for them. And so it's all about, nourishing with all the nutrients that restore functioning of the cells. So I want doctors to work with us to understand that nutrients are the ones that heal. Oh, excuse me, I shouldn't say that word. Nutrients are the ones that restore optimal functioning of the cells in the body, in all body systems. So notice the language that I'm using. Please write that down, because that is the key to make sure that, we're doing the same thing. We're really helping people understand, including the medical doctors. We're helping them understand, what nutrients do. They're not, as far as I can tell, years ago, I heard that doctors only had 3 hours of nutrition in their entire, years of study. And so a lot of doctors have gone beyond and studied nutrition on their own, or maybe taken some courses, or I don't know how far a lot of doctors have gone. But when I see what they're doing, what they're advertising, what they're trying to sell, the public, it's always so incomplete. So it tells me that they haven't had enough education as far as how nutrients restore functioning in the body. So yeah, that's how you always, you try to restore functioning and remove the pain by removing the damage. And the only way to do that is to help your body get the right nutrients so it can do the repairs.
All right. So if I was to recommend SLD and STP, that would be nutrition enough for this kind of a thing to try to help what this person is going through. Because if I look at this kind of inflammation, there's many people who maybe have been in accidents, or they've been struggling with similar looking kind of pain, but in different limbs. But they've come back to me and told me they're feeling much better. So is this a similar approach that maybe I could recommend a product like SLD and STP, or is there any other thing that I should maybe be looking at as far as our supplements are concerned?
Okay, great question. I love this. Okay, so the SLD and STP contain the DNA components of the plants that help our DNA understand how to repair any kind of damage in the DNA. So anytime there's an injury, the cells are damaged, and the DNA gets damaged a lot of times too. So nutrients will help the DNA, repair itself. But if you've got a DNA of a plant that has the right sequence of genes that your body just knows, it's innately in our genetic instructions, it knows that sequence of genes, it'll splice that out and repair the damage in our own bodies. And that's the fastest way to restore functioning. Otherwise, not that I'm not advocating a healthy diet, that's the key really to maintain or prevent. So just about 99% of the health ailments in the world, so something like this, of course, the SLD and STP is going to make not a lot. We don't know exactly how much of the repair work is done. This warrants a scientific study to determine just how much of the repair work the DNA of these plants in the formulations do in our own DNA when there's damage. So that's one thing. But also, the reason people get their conditions in the first place is, I have found, in the 45 years of research and matching my clients' results with that research, is that the whole foods and the balancing of the animal-derived proteins, the whole food fats like the raw nuts and seeds, a lot of the plant, like I was mentioning, the maca root and the ashwagandha, so many other plants too, with some of the plant sterols, they all contribute toward the healing process. The whole food carbohydrates, no refined foods, there's no nutrition in those. They only serve to cause inflammatory responses in the body. Plenty of purified spring water, versus distilled water, which is not hydrating. It just pulls minerals out of the bones. Or tap water. In the United States, tap water is not safe, and I don't advocate drinking out of it because there's always drug residues, pesticides, all these nano-sized particles that end up in the tap water, and the water purification plants in the cities just don't filter down to that level. They'll filter out bacteria and fungi and parasites and such, but they're, as far as I know, they cannot filter these micro elements, So all of this has to come together in order to prevent and to help the body nourish itself and to repair the things at the cell level so that these body systems are functioning better. So yeah, that's a longer way to go about it, but that's the best long-term investment a person can make in their health by restoring functioning nutritionally and preventing it, in the future.
All right, maybe just one last question. I wanted to also ask about, because you mentioned something now about distilled water. And we have always been, saying from the early days of learning about our supplements that they should be taken with lukewarm water or distilled water. That was my understanding. Is it your view that maybe we should stay away from distilled water and look at, you said spring water?
Yes. In fact, I can tell you, let's look it up. I love looking things up. I don't know about you all, but it really helps to look things up very quickly. So let's say the molecular structure of distilled water versus, let's say, spring water. So, you know, you can just do your own research here. I love doing the research here for us. So it'll tell you, let's see, I want to get some pictures of it. Images are so much better, worth 1,000 words, right? Let's see if we can get a good molecular structure of the two together. So this is the kind of research I love doing. I just dive into the research every single day. Whenever there's a question, something comes to my mind, and I'll just, you know, dive in and take a look. What I'm looking for is the molecular structure of the distilled water and the molecule. Oh, I hope we find it here. I don't know if that's going to help us here, but yeah, distilled water I have found is shaped like a square. And from what I understand, it's not a way to absorb and be hydrated. So the cell receptor sites cannot absorb water that way. And so when you have purified spring water, it's shaped into a cluster-like molecules, H2O clusters of 6-sided molecules that are extremely hydrating. And that's the difference. So how it leaches, you know, minerals out of the blood is something we can also look up. I didn't find it very quickly, but I know it's in there somewhere. So let's see how water is absorbed molecularly. You know, I'm just going around and casually just trying to see if we can find anything that would help us here. But you know, as you can see, there's a lot of information, right? And this is why I always type in this search box, science journal. And that way you wade through a lot of the misinformation, a lot of the information that's just, you know, not what you're looking for. So here we go. Here's a study, MDPI. I'm not sure what that is. It might be a scientific journal or not. So MDPI, it looks like it's a legitimate place where other people from other journals, other research studies post. Okay, you can always tell you're in a legitimate scientific area on the internet when you don't have anyone trying to sell you anything, products, you know, kind of thing. So here's a study on water absorption. You know, you can download things, and here's the total abstract, and they explain how water absorption happens, kind of thing. And let's find a scientific research how distilled water, water is absorbed. We can say absorbed, I suppose. Let's go that way. Journal. Experimental study in the absorption of distilled water. And right away, you know, once you type in science journal after your search term, you're going to have, you know, the science exposed to you right here. You know, experimental study of the absorption of distilled water, artificial seawater, and heavy water. So, you know, I mean, like I said earlier, all these different studies go at it a different way, you know. So usually when you read the abstract, that's more in layperson's terms. But if you look at the complete study, it gets pretty technical, you know. This doesn't look like, since it's so yeah, this is the Optical Society of America. They're going to be studying the optics, probably, you know, hydration of the eye kind of thing. So they're comparing different waters, you know. Doesn't look like that's something that would answer our question. So I go on, you know, I just, maybe a different search term is warranted, but let's go the molecular structure of distilled water. Maybe it'll get us that. Distilled water. And we'll just leave the words is absorbed The internet search engines will pick up the word absorption having to do with distilled water. And there's that one study that popped up again. The harmful action of distilled water, and here's a scientific journal. And that's probably what I'm looking for. American Journal of Botany, harmful action of distilled water. And we could also narrow it down in human, hydration cells, but this will give us a little bit of an idea of why it's harmful. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to scroll here and you can read it later, but let's go to the conclusion. That'll tell us more. You can see how they went through this whole rigorous, study. They displayed their findings on the tables here. And some of these are quite involved, so they're talking about distilled water versus the Potomac River water. And again, this is one, research study out of probably thousands that have examined the properties of distilled water versus other types of water. But so I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Okay, this is just all the scientific references they used, all the other cited literature that they use. And you can see some of these looks like a German language, I'm not sure, but they go all over the world for their reference sources. And so, they're talking about the electrolytes. The dissociated electrolytes escape from the cell and increase the conductivity of the distilled water. When a calcium salt is added to the distilled water, sufficient to make it osmotically equal to tap water, this disassociating power of the distilled water over the proteids and other chemical mechanisms of the cells is largely undeveloped. It just goes on and on. But basically what they're saying here is, okay, so distilled water doesn't have any minerals in it, so it has no absorption capability. But when you add calcium to it, then it's going to be performing some kind of absorption or what's called osmosis. So when we absorb water and all the minerals are present, then osmosis is one of the ways that our cells draw water into the cells. And also one of the ways our cells, just get rid of the old water, so to speak. We have water exchange going inside and outside of our cells all of the time. So this is the kind of research that I do to find the answers. So, this is just one little part of one study out of the thousands that we happen to find. But you can imagine how many hours of research that it requires to make sure I get all of the right information, for whatever application I need. So these are other things that came up from our search when I typed in the word science journal. If I were to leave that term out, then it would be so confusing. And there's just so much contradicting information out on the internet. Good for the Natural Institute of Health. Good for them. They made sure that this came up also. So this might be a good thing. I mean, I already recognize the credible websites and the ones that aren't here in the US. But anyway, this will probably give you the structure and all of that of water. So you really can do a deep dive in any question you might have on the internet. You just have to know what to look for, but always type science journal and do read the abstract, the beginning of the study, and the end, the conclusion. Those are usually written in layperson's terms. Or if you happen to find a peer-reviewed study, then they usually write that in much more understandable terms. And they take in so many different research studies and pick out the ones that are most relevant to whatever a person might be searching for.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions about that?
Okay, thank you so much. Leaders, do you have any question? Either a follow-up on what was just discussed or anything else? You are welcome to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Mary. It's Mina. How are you?
Hi, Mina. Nice to see you.
Good, thank you. I just wanted to chat with you. I've had some of my ladies complaining that they've taken PWR as well as beauty. And then after a few weeks, they getting like these whitehead pimples. Is that normal because they're getting it on their face? Is it normal that they're going to get a breakout or something to do with the skin?
Yeah, the skin is the largest organ in the body, and it's a detoxification organ, in addition to our kidneys and our bowels and our liver and the lymph nodes. You know, all these different circulatory systems in the body help eliminate toxins. So if a person has been ingesting a lot of synthetic chemicals, whether they breathe them in from their household chemicals or maybe chemicals in the workplace, or, you know, just in our food and our drink and our water, inhaling, you know, everything. So over time, if they're not taking in foods that naturally bind to these toxic chemicals and help the body eliminate them, then you're going to store them somewhere in the body. And so the skin is one of the ways that the body eliminates some synthetics. And this indicates the white blood cells that are part of our immune system. They'll go in and they'll eat up or try to eliminate somehow the anything that's toxic, you know. So that's why they look white, because of, those are our white blood cells at work doing something for us. But you know, it could be anything from not getting enough sun and wearing synthetic clothing and not letting the skin breathe. You know, it could be the sebum, the natural oils that our skins produce, that is building up like that. So it could be a lot of different things as to why someone would break out like that. Is it very severe?
They just complain that it's like a whitehead and it's very painful. So, and then obviously as it gets ripened, it's hard and then it passes. So I suppose, as you're saying, it's the white blood cells trying to get out, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Okay. If it's painful and if it's hard, and I was thinking it was maybe the small bumps, you know, the small white ones that form sometimes. But if it's painful and if it's larger than those small whiteheads, then she might want to have it looked at medically. I'm not a medical doctor. I can't, you know, I don't know how it got there. But sometimes I have found that in my experience, that when someone has skin issues like that, or things that are almost like a boil or large enough to be painful, then there's some kind of possibly some kind of infection going on there. So again, switching to a healthy diet, drinking plenty of the right kind of water, that usually helps the body just get rid of something like that. But I would have a medical person look at it and just see what they say, just so that she knows for sure, you know, how she can do this. But yeah, the skin and anything that coagulates like that and forms something like that is just the body's way of trying to get rid of something. And this looks a little more severe than the average, you know, whitehead.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Right, thank you, Mina. All right, is there anyone else before we do our closing statements with Mary? Anyone else who would like to ask a question for clarity? You're welcome to ask.
I'd like to answer the questions that you put to me earlier or today, Julia. Can I do that?
Yeah, sure, continue. You're welcome, thank you.
Okay. You asked me what was the most bizarre thing I'd ever heard people say to me as far as their, you know, their wellness. Well, and this is just, it's not their fault. It's just the level of not receiving the right information. And so we have an opportunity to help educate the public. We have to educate ourselves, you know, and then turn around and share that knowledge. So what I want to share with you today is, whenever someone asks you, you know, what will give me energy? And, you know, does this supplement, is this going to cure such and such, right? Or, you know, it could be a lot of questions that just show the level of not understanding how their bodies work. And so I want to encourage everyone to get yourself a nice little, you know, physiology book, a little nutrition book, and just, you know, study that a little bit and look at the pictures, or look online at the images of the different areas of the human body, and go into the micro world of the body. You know, look at the cell components, and read up a little bit. I mean, the book that I produce has all that information all in one place, you know, because I want people to understand the human body. And once you understand the basics about how it works, and even down at the cell level, it's always so fascinating and it's so impressive. The human body is phenomenal, you know, and how it does so much on its own and how much it will put up with before it finally succumbs to the disease process, you know. So we have a lot of reserves. It'll dip into its own reserves, the bone matrices and the muscles, you know, the connective tissues, even the blood, you know, and some tissues that surround some of our organs. It'll dip into those for a lot of its work to do the healing work for, or the maintenance work for a lot of the more vital areas of the body, like the heart, you know, and the kidneys and the brain and that kind of thing. But when you get questions like that, just always steer them back to proper nutrition and, you know, introduce these formulations and tell them that they're nourishing at the cell level where everything happens, and have them go from there, you know, because you're going to get a lot of bizarre questions that way. It's just out of I hate to say the word ignorance, but it really is, and it's not their fault. And also the second question. So you asked me, I don't understand my own notes now. I'm trying to recall what you said. Never ask what you want to understand. Do you remember what your second question was to me? I'm sorry.
Yes, so I think you've answered both. They're actually just two. It was just the weirdest or bizarre things that you had to address, and also what we normally don't ask and that you think we should know. I think you started there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I only scratched the surface of all the things that I can share with everyone. So rest assured, you know, we can have many more conversations similar to this if you'd like. I'm going to stop screen sharing now. Sometimes I forget to stop the screen share. Okay.
No, you indeed answered both the questions, and I am quite pleased with that. Of course, we're still gonna have other sessions, and you can dive deeper into the others. And next time when we meet, I'm sure we will have more questions. Let's see if I see a hand. Okay, I do not see a hand, leaders. Let's check the chats. All right, okay, I was logged off and then logged in. I'm not sure if there's a question I missed, but wow. Thank you so much, Mary. You see, now this session went the way I hoped, because sometimes we end up asking the same questions over and over again. But tonight, it was a bit different because we wanted to really add to our knowledge base. So you really helped us with that. I appreciate you, all the leaders, for being here till this time and for asking questions. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. Enjoy your day, Mary. We are going to sleep and you can enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to encourage everyone to go visit my YouTube channel. I have some educational videos that will help you understand the human body. There's a lot of wellness videos there that I put together for the public. And so if you go through those videos, then you'll get a real education as to how the body works as well. So thank you for having me here, everyone. Thank you, Julia.
Indeed. Thank you so much for always coming back. Lovely.
All righty.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.